I hear people say stuff like men should cry, men should do this, men should do that. I get where you're coming from. What you instead should be saying is men should express themselves.
Yes.
So don't expect men to be women. And you get why. Men can never cry in a similar magnitude to women.
Never.
The average high society wedding now, if you're doing 2 days, anything less than 100 million is not high society. It's not. That's for children. First and foremost, there's a reason the event industry in Nigeria is $1 billion one.
Whoa, like now, talk to me like as a
Let
big
me
brother.
tell you, there's a balance. If your marriage is the greatest financial project you've ever embarked upon at the time of the marriage, then something is already fishy. There's some stories I've never told before. How that about 3 to 4 years after my dad's demise, my mom had to shut down her company. When the company shut down, my mom could have been full of excuses. On one hand, she could have given excuses to also say, oh, I'm a widow, help me. On the other hand, say, I'm a strong woman who's got kids that I need to fend for.
At what point did the pastoring get into your life?
Upon getting to Covenant University, I got into school at 15. He had just left. And so I came in and I heard about this guy who shook down. And he's got a prolific teaching ministry. After I joined church, he began to actively disciple people. Our discipleship, no be 2+2. First time ever. We had 3 days back to back, almost 10 hours per day. Morning to like evening. You go pray, tire, you go learn what? Introduction to Systematic Theology 101.
That's the title.
Oriabo.
Is there hope for Nigeria?
There is, as long as I'm still here.
If you were president for a day, what will you do?
I will.
All right, people, welcome to another amazing episode of That's My Time podcast. My name is Tolu Afilaka, and I'm happy, blessed, fortunate. I'm sounding like Psalm 1 amplified version. Prosperous. Because today, Psalm 1 says, do not sit in the seat of the scornful, do not walk in the way of sinners, do not stand in the what's that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited because I am. His light is the Lord, but I'm excited because today I'm sitting with a great man, a man that I would have envisioned I would have him on my couch maybe a year or 2 or 3 years, but for some reason he's here today. I love how LinkedIn puts it. He puts it that he is a multi-potentialite. He's a keynote speaker. He's a business consultant. He's a man who wears many hats. Many businesses, some businesses that he owns that you don't even know. Of recent, I even saw Propeller. Wow. But I'm sure you guys know him as the CEO of Trips Clothing. He's also a resident pastor at CCI Agor. Ladies and gentlemen, with me in the studio, put your hands together. Make welcome, Pastor Olushola Olaleye.
Hi, Tolu. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
So first and foremost, drop the sir. Drop the pastor.
All right. No, I'm going to drop it at some point.
Drop several formalities,
Yeah.
and also ex-CEO of Trips. I'm no longer the CEO. I've handed over to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I built the business, handed over to
levels.
other people. So yeah, I operate. I lead the businesses from a group level now. So not just Trips and the others also. So
Wow.
but yeah, just thought.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir,
It's a
for
pleasure
coming.
to be here.
Very grateful. Yes, sir. Straight in.
First and foremost, I'm a fan.
Oh, guys, you hear that? I'm shy. Anyways, sir, like I said, I was trying to hold some conversation when you walked into the studio so I don't break everything. But the very first time I heard about you was 2017. I was young. I just graduated from secondary school. And then my dad used to give me Punch newspaper to read because there was a section for students that did very well, first class students. Punch used to have it. So my dad just asterisked it and sent the paper back to me. We come back from church, Living Faith. And then I see this guy there.
Oh my
His
God.
name is Olushola Olaleye. June 3rd, 2017, because I went back to research.
Yes.
And I saw it. And then I was reading in between the lines, and then I saw that you graduated as best graduating student from first meal, I think you graduated at 19.
Yeah, I was
thereabout.
19.
Yes.
And
Then you said something about acting, and then you used to do skits and comedy. And I was like, wow, so you can graduate. And that time I was trying to be a comedian. I was like, so you can do well in academics.
Tell me you showed your dad.
Yeah, I told him.
Can you see?
I kept the paper actually, but I didn't know that I eventually get to know your cross paths with you. So, and then in that interview, you said you're a skit maker. Yes. Wow. I'll show it to you. This is my phone is not here. I'm a skit maker, that you do skits, you have a social media presence, and you want to be a media personality. You have authored a book and you're trying to get the second one. But because of funding, you also said that you hope to be an HR consultant for Shell. You also said you would want to motivate people across the world through writing and through speaking.
Incredible.
All of that, you've achieved it. But there was one thing that was not there that you are doing now, is the active part of your life, which was pastoring. So at what point did the pastoring get into your life?
Wow. So first and foremost, what are the odds? The odds that several years ago,
Yes.
an interview that I had with Punch, which actually was posted 2 years later.
Yes, it was.
So I graduated 2015.
Yeah.
They took my contact in 2015 on the graduation grounds. And then they wanted to have a conversation. And then 2 years after, that presenter reached out and asked for an interview. So I gave that interview at 21, even having graduated at 19, right? And so, so I'm actually wowed because it's been 8 years now, and over 8 years.
Over 8 years?
Yeah.
10 years, actually.
Yeah, 10 years since I graduated, but over 8 years since that interview
was published.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, that gives me some goosebumps. Yeah. I mean, what were the odds that Dad will have kept that for you? Yeah. And so, thank God for all the exploits so far. How did ministry come into it? To be honest, I'd always known since I was a kid that I was going to have some very strong activity, I'll put it, in and around the church. Yes, I'd always been the kid who had the heart for God, kid who used to be the church boy. I think I preached my very first sermon at the age of 13, thereabout, in the main church. Wow. And prior to that, I'd been a very strong and committed member of the teenage church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God. And that's how we kept on growing. And so for me, it always been a thing of delight and not really out of duty. So I'd always just loved God, right? And then upon getting to Covenant University, I got into school at 15. And I got involved, joined the drama unit. I got really serious by year 2. And that was it. And I began to grow more and more and more and more and more in the things of God, in the knowledge of God, and many more things. And then I wanted more, remember, in my final year. Now, I had occupied several positions. I had done school politics, was president of my association, was VP at some point, became president. But some other things that stood out was I was part of chaplaincy. I was floor chaplain and, a couple more things. And then I had a very strong role within my service, which was actually drama.
Yes, you did.
So that was where you saw the whole drama thing. And all. I used to be very active in Covenant University drama department. Many people even know and still remember from there. And I remember right after school, in fact, right after my final year, I wanted more. So I'll read God's Generals. I'm like, God used some people. I remember I had a roommate then, Ben. When he saw me reading God's General, he said, bro, the day I read this book, I told God never to call me. Bro, when you read God's General, particularly why some succeeded and others failed. God's General is a book by Robert Slayer. The blue one, my brother. You can see stories about Alexander Dowie, Evan Roberts, the Welsh revivalist, and many more people. Anyways, you read it?
I read it partially, but when I go to matter, I said, nah, I know.
Bro,
I don't fit.
Bro, it was a lot. Yeah. And reading all those things, a lot began to well up in me, like, God could use people. Why not me, Lord? But then also, I had some questions about the prosperity gospel. I had some questions about a couple of other things. Also, some questions about the intersection of law and grace. And so I began to go all out for myself. There was no ChatGPT then. I began to look for the right materials, began to read, began to study. Thank God for some teachers that expanded the word of God a whole lot more. And so the moment I was done with school, I became fully a member of Celebration Church, right? And that was where that fire began to have what I'll call direction.
Was the Celebration Church on campus or outside campus?
Outside campus.
Okay.
Right? So I graduated 2015, and so I could officially be out of school and join a church.
Yes.
And then it had to be CCI, right? First day I walked in.
Had you heard about...
Obviously, I had heard. I mean, I met him before.
Okay.
I met him, we used to joke about, I think I told him about it. He graduated 2011.
Okay.
May, June, July was when he graduated, around that time, after spending 5 years in school. The year I graduated was the year I came in.
Oh, wow.
I came in September, right?
Yeah.
2011. He had just left. And so I came in and I heard about this guy who shook town. Like, who's this guy?
Same way. When I entered, it's
Who be this
pastor.
guy? Who be this guy? You know? And so at some point, I once saw him and his then fiancée, Laju, right?
She was in
So
CUTG,
himself and Pastor Laju, she was in CUTG, yes, but they came to school one time like that. Okay, what is I heard a lot. Then 2012, in my year 2, the church started.
Okay.
Year 2, year 1, and then people obviously, I feel like a whole lot of people obviously like to farms authority.
Of course.
I put it that way. And we're talking about it. I was like, okay, it's not about talking about it. Okay, I've heard about the guy, no problem. And then that was it. And so after a while, we've been seeing his devotionals. Yeah. I've been seeing many of the disciples. He had actually left in school. So Pastor Mike, then Pastor Tolu. So the influence began to grow. And then 2014, he got married. But officially, I couldn't start being fully a part of the church on the 2015 when I graduated. And from then on, it's been incredible. Wow. And it was so God ordained because the fire began to have direction because he's got a prolific teaching ministry.
Yes, exactly.
Such in a way where when people come in contact with him, it's almost as though.
What have I been hearing?
Yeah, it's like a refinery where all of the raw materials begin to get processed, right? Yeah. And then you are now deployed. It's something so strategic, I can't explain it. So it was obviously the early years of church, right? CCI was still about 2 then, thereabouts. And then it began to grow. Yeah. And as God will have it, God orchestrated in such a way that some months after I joined church, he began to actively disciple people, right, for a deeper walk. And as God will have it, I was part of those people, and that was how things went. And then I'd always known that, yes, I had a teaching grace upon my life, right back from secondary school, right back from even the university. People could tell if Shola explains what to you, you will understand. But once again, there was direction. And so that was it. And then I was discipled properly. Like our discipleship no be 2+2. Nah. Then the very first discipleship classes we'll have with Apostle then was in his house back then in Babs Aregbe down around Sele Go Palace Way. Yeah. And we'll just go there like this. First time ever. We had 3 days back to back, almost 10 hours per day. Morning to like evening. You go pray, tire, you go learn word. You go Introduction to Systematic Theology 101.
That's the title.
Oriabo. He didn't really give you the title, but in hindsight, I can give you the title. Yeah. And that was it. And it was beautiful. And then so after a while, obviously, as you grow older and deeper in the things of God, more about the calling of God on your life begins to take more shape. And then that was it. And then I always knew it was inevitable that I was going to pastor.
Wow. But I'm aware that your grandma is a general overseer.
Yes, guy, what kind of research they do?
No, I have to.
It's a lot.
Would you say, were there times because of course you're a woman of God, are there times that she would tell you that you was your law, or she prophesy to your life, or she prayed you into it? So
from when I was young, I'd always been the child you don't pray about to love God. I'd always been the guy who everyone already knew that this guy he likes God, he likes church, he's been active. So there wasn't really any henceforth moment that made them say, I proclaim to you, I do this, I do that. However, I was built in a very godly way thanks to my primary agent of socialization, which is my family. Right? So my grandmom is general overseer of a church in Lagos, like I said. She actually used to be a very active member of the Prison Fellowship of Nigeria. So I grew up watching grandma do all those things. I grew up, she used to work at Federal Airport Authorities of Nigeria. And so in the early days, she couldn't do full-time ministry. And so they used to do a fellowship. So we'll go to grandma's place during the holidays. We used to, fellowship was always before Super Story. It was always on Thursday. So we know you see that. And also my mom, we used to see her go to church and all, but she'll teach us things like the hymn, the old rugged cross. And then okay, till my trophies are last I lay down. There's a judgment seat of Christ, there's a reward seat of Christ. You're going to know all of these things. And then you're learning, you're growing in that knowledge. So there wasn't ever really a point where someone tells you kneel down, one prophetic word has come officially.
You didn't have a supernatural call? Like Bishop. You know Bishop?
Oh no,
Bishop's call is viral.
I was in Ilesha. That hotel, international
I
hotel.
can't forget
There
that
was
place.
nothing international about it. I'm from Ilesha, so I will never forget it. They say, how many hours vision? 18 hours vision.
Yes, it's our Bishop.
And anytime I mess up, this is not what I was showing. So
I know what I saw.
So yeah. So
I'm from Elisha too, by the way.
really?
Yes. Osho State Elisha.
Where in Ilesha? It's Delhi.
I don't know, Ishida. My dad says Ishida. Somewhere.
Your dad says you've not been home.
2017, that was the last time.
Oh, you're not bad now. Since
Yeah,
not
it
bad.
wasn't bad.
How many times have you been there?
Maybe 3 times when my grandfather died.
Not bad. You're not doing bad.
So wait, have you been there?
Oh, yes, I still went 2022.
Not Ife when you were 7.
No. I was resident pastor for CCI Ife. So I travel every single week.
Yeah.
To and fro every weekend. It was crazy.
I'm going to touch that too.
Yeah, but one time I had to branch Elisha very recently and all. Yeah, but before then I had
When
to
Elisha?
in a while.
I don't know Elisha.
Omofe. From Omofe in Elisha.
I'll ask about that.
Boogie family. So that's where I'm from.
I think I've heard that.
Yeah. So if you call Bishop supernatural call, oh yes, I didn't have that type of how do I put it? Exactly. Let's
open
put it that way.
vision.
Exactly. I would say it wasn't that dramatic. Let's put it that way. Exactly. And it doesn't have to be dramatic to be supernatural.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear about
Because
that.
I had a friend in school. He was good. He had the word, but he said until God appears to him.
Okay.
And
I've heard Drogba.
until God appears to him like he did. But talking about supernatural, while doing my research, I understood that you lost your father at 7. And your mom and dad had an accident where she was rushed into the hospital, and a bright light appeared to the doctor and spoke to her and said, that woman must not die, this and that and that. Do you think that was very instrumental to you? Maybe she had to be there to raise you or protect you. That could have been a supernatural call.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I believe so. So first and foremost, life is already hard enough not to have had a father.
Yeah.
And imagine how crazy I would have been without a mother also. My mom remains the greatest influence on my life to this day. And my wife knows that everything you see about me, love about me, celebrate about me, a strong part of that is traceable to my mom. She taught me empathy. She taught me how to esteem others above yourself. Now, she didn't teach me intentionally through verbosity or through her words and all. No. She didn't tell. She showed. And I couldn't have had it any other way. And so, removing my mom from the picture would have... would definitely have led me somewhere else, right? And so yes, a whole lot of that. Often things like resilience, I trace it to my mom. And so I believe that God ordained it for a reason. My dad was a lawyer. My mom was an engineer. She actually, she was doing amazing. They both were doing amazing. We're like upper middle class, I'll put it that way. I won't say upper.
Nepo.
But no, not say Nepo. Well, we're doing amazing, right? In hindsight, though, recently one of my aunties we live with us was telling me stuff like, So recently we had my grandpa's burial like a year ago. So she came home, she was like, what moto yen? She G-Wagon call long pe. He said, Daddy in Iren now, only meji. I said, wait a minute.
Hold it.
That's why. I just remember that my dad drove only Benz.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that was he had like a couple. I knew it was just Benz he used to drive. And then but I was young, man. So, and the biggest things I remember about my upbringing was not affluence or ostentatious living.
Yes.
The most important things I remember was that we were well brought up. And so my mom played a very key role to all of those and all. So yes, my mom was an engineer. She was all of these, but there's some stories I've never told before. How that about 3 to 4 years after my dad's demise, my mom had to shut down her company. They used to make nylons for Vicks Blue, all of these guys. It was actually very, very, very big. It was in JKN compound and Yanotire. That's my mom's company. And they had to shut it down. And then imagine moving from someone who's got, let me give you context.
Yes, sir.
Look for one of my businesses. Okay, so one of my businesses has like currently leased out a building up and down. We have the entire compound to ourselves.
God.
One day I told
Receive grace.
one day I told my team, behave yourself. One day I told my team, I said, this full building is less than about a quarter of what my mom used to command back in the day. That our company was that big.
She owned.
Yes, she owns the company. Right? They leased the entire place. It was big. I remember watching 2006 World Cup there, somewhere in the factory. It was that big. And then after a while, because of obviously electricity costs and many more things, and also theft from employees, which is why I'm passionate about that thing, the company had to shut down.
Yeah.
Right? When the company shut down, there are two ways to look at it. What do you do next? First and foremost, my mom could have been full of excuses.
Yes.
Blame the government, blame the pilfering on the part of the employees.
True.
Or she could have held her life at the scruff of the neck and made a meaning out of it. On one hand, she could have given excuses to also say, I'm a widow, help me.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other hand, say, I'm a strong woman who's got kids that I need to fend for.
Yeah.
And so life became funny. 2006, circa 06, 07, I remember vividly. My mom had to make a decision to close down the company. And then she was tired of also paying rent because just before my dad died, we were supposed to move into our house somewhere on the island, but we couldn't anymore, right? So she just said, you know what, let's not go there. Let's still remain here to rent another house. But shortly after that, now she goes, okay, I'm tired of paying rent. And I struggled her way to build on one of our properties on the mainland. And then she built it in 3 months.
Wow.
It wasn't complete. It wasn't even painted. Inside was painted, but she just said, you know what, we'll move in there.
Like that.
And that was what I saw, resilience. And after a while, she said, what do I do next? There's no more company. Okay, I've always been a caterer, even though my late husband did not like me.
Wow, she kept going.
And she said, you know what I'll do? I ran Oshodi. They're opening new complex there. She went, rented one or bought one or whatever it was, and started selling recharge card.
An engineer?
Yes, recharge card. And so permit me, if in your conversations with me, I don't act like somebody who sees roadblocks.
No.
That was my very first mirror of possibilities, right? That things could be done. So my mom would go. I remember the day she came back with Glow 500, MTN for 400, MTN for 400, 750, 1,000, me bagbe. She brought it, said we should pray on it. This is a new business. I was the profit, 10 naira per one. That was the profit. After a while, the thing was not shaky. It was she started selling chicky.
An engineer.
Chicky, 50 naira. That was it. And then after a while, things were still funny. I had got into, I think, Baptist Academy or Koro at the time. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I knew was my mom, next thing said, you know what, she just go back to this catering thing. And then that was how she got the opportunity to start catering for RT Briscoe, managing the canteen. And that was what literally sent myself and my brother through to school.
Covenant.
Yes. When I was in CU, I was telling my wife some days ago, I said, when I was in CU, I didn't collect monthly allowance. So it was weekly. You know why? Now, as my mama, they make the money for canteen. They send money to me.
That's you selfless.
And that was it. I didn't know my mom went gold. I didn't know. So it had to be divine. God knew that for the assignment that It had for myself and my brother, there had to be someone.
Yeah, and she needed to teach you those lessons.
And so I owe all of that, to be honest, to that.
But at the time, okay, let's go back to Pastor Iren. How was it like, submitting to someone as young as you are? The age gap was not that much.
Okay.
Yeah. And, how was it? Did you get like backlash from family and saying, talentele, your church will end law, all those kind of stuff? It's not, I don't know, what church did you go to growing up?
I used to go to Redeem.
Okay.
Growing up, I was born in Kudus Baptist Church, Surulere. But Redeem was closer. It was proximate to the first house that I lived in. So in Ijesha, raised in Ijesha. Then Redeem, grew up in Redeem, got to university, obviously, winners. And then later on, back when I was in school, when I come home, I used to attend Fountain of Life Church.
Yeah, but I'm saying that to say because, my parents, raised us in an Anglican church.
Ooh.
Yeah, before all of us grew up and started. So when we started attending Celebration Church,
You ask questions. A lot of questions.
Covenant Nation, there's like a new generation churches, young pastor, Pastor Iren's on high hair and stuff like that. So how was it like
Okay.
following him up and down? You guys were going around everywhere. How was it from family?
Interesting. That's very, very important. So Pastor Iren is about 6 years, 1 month, and about 6 days my senior. But he's every ounce my father than any other person in the world at the moment. And that's down to many reasons.
Okay.
If Apostle were 5 years younger than he is, I would still be as submitted.
Are you serious?
100%.
2 years?
Yes.
Same. Wow.
I will still be as submitted. If it was my age mate, I will still be as submitted. Obviously, age plays a factor from a natural standpoint to elicit the desire to respect and honor a person.
True.
But for me, the regard I have for him transcends just chronological age. So the very first thing is this. I grew up in a family where you were trained to make your own decisions and you were trained to have your decisions honored by your parents. So I think of it this way. I was a precocious kid, which meant that from the age of like 10, I started thinking like a teenager.
Wow.
From like, so I'll put it this way. I stopped earning or collecting any money from home from like the age of 19. Wow. 19, 20. So I remember my mom paid for my flight to go to Akwa Ibom for my youth service. Went to Akwa Ibom for youth service.
Where you taught? You used to teach?
Yes, I used to tell. I was lecturing. No, first class graduates had to go lecture. So I lectured at Akwa Ibom College of Education at Fahansit. Wow. That's where I was. And so my mom stopped sending me money. I said, hey. That's where they be. I was the big boy in here. So 19.8 and 8,500 for my lecture was what I was really feeling on. So I started to take matters into my hands. How did I do that? I started selling toast bread. Bear in mind, I was also the papa of my NCCF sub-zone. So they started calling it Papa Turkey Toast.
Wow.
Papa Turkey. And that was it. And so it wasn't hard for me because one of my aunts who actually literally one of the people who raised us, Auntie Lighton, my favorite auntie in the entire world, she told myself and my brother, Shola, Toby, I'm a Ferrari, I'm a Baba. So that sense of growing up early, the fact that what used to be a disadvantage could actually be a fuel for you to take responsibility even faster.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a case of two people raising two children. But now, like Yoruba people will say, right? And you have to grow up fast. Because someone is doing everything that she can. And I'm telling you this for a reason. And so we began to live responsibly. And so my mom began to trust my decisions from when I was young. And so it's easier for you to trust a person's decisions about who they are getting married to and the kind of church they want to attend when you already trust their financial decisions. That's how it works.
Very true.
That's how it works.
Very true.
But then when you are so dependent, daddy buys you a recharge card, then daddy definitely must call the shot because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. That's how it works.
It's true.
But when you show a track record of independence and they see this guy is living a good life, then they begin to trust you. True. When she comes to Covenant University and sees this guy I was vice president of my department at the age of 16 in 200 level.
Wow.
At 17, I was president. She sees it. His grades are not suffering. Okay, now it's easier for them to trust. So I come out of school and then all of a sudden I start attending Celebration Church. And me, I was the chatty kid. So I come and tell her, this was happening in my church, my pastor, my this, my that. And then also,
you used to tell her?
Yes. And she sees, yes, I'm going for Pastor Iren. And okay, this Pastor Iren, you're always talking about, no problem. And then all of a sudden, in fact, sometime in 2017, when I launched my second book, Just Believe, Apostle was there, he and his wife. He wrote the foreword for the book. Wow. She's seen the support. She did small chops for the book launch. She honored my pastor. That's it. Back then, in the early days of discipleship, it was her birthday. I said, Shola's birthday. My pastor called her. And so she can see these things, right? And then also, I always tell people, right?
Yes.
it's easier for your parents to accept the church you are attending when your behavior at home does not drop in quality. Because when they see, this church has changed your life, it's easier, right? And then also another thing I would advise you to do is, it is typical of parents to be first and foremost defensive about your choices, particularly with yours. Particularly, it's proof that they care, not proof that they don't like you.
It's true.
But then the onus is now on you to prove that you're making the best decision. But guess what? How can you do it? Many times we like to cramp a journey of 1,000 miles into one step, but you can't do it. At the very first time your parents express their skepticism about your choices, it's not the moment where you begin to get grumpy. That's the initial reaction. There's stuff you can do. Sweep the house well, do everything well, and then find an opportunity. Everybody always has their good mood, no matter how terrible they are.
Yes.
No matter how narcissistic, authoritarian, fascist someone is, they will always have a good time.
True.
And time their moments, time their emotions. That mommy, you listen to just 15 minutes of the sermon from this man. Or sometimes, let me give you one trick. Play the sermon, enter bathroom. She will hear. Parents hear. They do. More than you think they are. And then the moment they begin to, this guy is not bad. True. What he's saying makes sense. It becomes easier. And so for me, I was following. And when you see Pastor Iren, doesn't even look his age.
True.
Man looks like he's still 30.
Yes.
Right? And then it's even harder because, he's young. This one, however, buried beneath the baby face. I always joke and tell him, I always say, Apostle, sir, you are 36, right? I said, but that's your chronological age. I said, but your real age, you're about 85. Because the things you've been through, the things you've seen, and the impact that you have made definitely goes beyond those years.
Yes.
So that's it.
So it's more of like building a track record for your parents to see.
Thank you very much.
So that makes a lot of sense, and that's very true. Okay, Pastor Shola, we are now leaving your pastor and I'm entering into the Olushola. Yeah.
Interesting side.
So I cringe to say this, but Olushola Olaleye, you on your Instagram, on your social media, which you have a large presence of people on, your content has blessed a lot of people, and you seem to sound like you have it all figured out. Because I've seen you give timeless advices to people. I've seen you there's a video you did about friends. There's a video you have done recently, one you did about virality. You know what to do to go viral. Many things, and it looks like, oh my God, this guy is so wise. He knows everything. Most ladies will, But my question is, do you have struggles? Do you struggle? Do you have things you struggle with? Or do you have things you're still trying to figure out? Because left to me, it looks like you're 100%. You're a total man concept.
TMC!
Yeah, that's how it looks.
Oh my God.
So whenever I go through your page and I just see videos, sometimes I might want to have, if I have a question, I can just go to your page and say, okay, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, how to beat HNDIs, everything. So do you have struggles? Do you have things that you still try to learn or try to be better at?
Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things that I'm trying to improve upon.
I also believe.
I'm serious. Like, look, if you want to know what I'm like or who I'm like, ask my wife, ask Iniolua,
PDI,
ask Victor Baju,
yeah,
ask my close friends, Oge Poco, Pastor Oge, David. Ask these guys. They'll tell you what I'm like. So here's what I'm like behind the scenes, right? I like to draw from the stoic wisdom of Ryan Holiday to paint this to you properly. Ryan puts it this way. It says, how do I call it this way? It says, be lenient with others, but be strict with yourself.
Yeah, I know that quote.
So what he's pretty much trying to talk about is the fact that always try to look for virtues in others, but always look for vices in yourself. Let me explain.
Yes, sir.
What this means is look for virtues in others, which means try to always make excuses for people. And particularly in a world where everyone is always on the always on the offense.
Okay.
And even on the defense. Offense in the sense that everyone wants to do better than the next person, but also people are very eager to point out the negatives in others. He's saying there's always positives in many.
Yeah.
So look on the positives in them, and from there begin to expand on the positives, and you'll begin to see them in a better light. So, but on the other hand, on yourself, there's a natural tendency sometimes for many people who might lack self-awareness to many times want to major only on the positives in their lives, quote and unquote, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes they don't see when some negatives are beginning to gain ascendancy over the positives. And so there's a right balance. And so when he says, check for the vices in yourself, it means deal with your demons early. That's what it means. It means every single habit that you leave unchecked will soon become something that will spiral out of control in the near future. Yeah. And so he says, check for vices in yourself and check for virtues in other people. What that simply means, and that's one of the major things that guides me. Now, when he says check for vices in yourself, doesn't mean that you can't also be appreciative of the virtues in your own life. But it simply means there are always things in your life, right? There are always things in your life that can be better. There are always things you can do better. And so for me, I think, thank you for your kind words, but I'm quite hard on myself. And I think that's one of the main, propellants, I'll put it that way, for my commitment to tireless growth. I was in a conversation with Auntie Tara Fredado some days ago. And she was telling me, she said, growing up, our kids were very awesome people. And they had this nanny who had lived with them for several years. Yes. And she said that she's always quite hard on the kids because she's very strict. And they turned out superbly, all of them. And she said that, look, she's strict with them for a particular reason and for a goal in mind. She said that one day, the nanny looked at her and said, Ma, like these children, that your children are very amazing, compared to the children that I see whenever I go to pick them from school. Yes. And Tara looked at the nanny and said, well, thank you. He says, but I'm not going to compare my children with other people's kids. I'm going to compare my children with where they ought to be. And so the standard is different now. And so why I tell you that I'm not where I want to be and why I tell you there are several rooms for improvement is simply because I'm not comparing myself with my environment. I'm not comparing myself with another person. I'm comparing myself with my best version. And so every single day, that's what propels me.
Who you should be.
Who I ought to be. I'll give you a very beautiful example. Something happened in 1955, right? At an interview room in the Naval office, there was a young Jimmy Carter, right? And then he was at the other end of the table with Admiral Rico Hoover, who was a very well-celebrated man in the American Navy at the time. And so in the midst of the interview, Jimmy Carter was trying to impress him so hard. And Ricky Hoover asked him, and Ricky Hoover said, okay, what did you score back at the naval school? What was your position? And then Jimmy Carter, with so much enthusiasm, said, well, I was about 59 out of, I think, about 800 people. And Ricky Hoover looked at him. Jimmy expecting him to be impressed. But Ricky Hoover turned and said, okay, but did you do your best? And Jimmy Carter paused, thought about it deeply, and said, no, I didn't. Now, let me tell you what that does to you. A whole lot of times, we've been taught to measure our successes based off how we perform in comparison to other people. Yes. Whereas true success is not based on outcomes or metrics created by people, systems, school, or standards measured by society. Yes, sir. True success is being the best version of yourself. Because sometimes, right, you can be the worst version of yourself or maybe the average version of yourself and still be first in a class of 20. And some other times, you can actually do the very best you can and maybe be fifth in a class of 10. But real success is actually being the best version of yourself, even when the outcomes and the metrics set by society might not look like you are really a success.
Yeah.
I say this because the greatest form of leadership is actually self-leadership. And so I think that's what moves me and that's what drives me. And so I look put together outside, but bro, I know I'm put together. There's nothing you see online that is at variance with who I really am. People who work with me closely. My wife will tell you that's who I am. I'm not faking it. I'm a cool guy normally, but I'm not a guy who has everything figured out. I'm a guy who keeps learning every day. If I tell you the number of hours I put into reading every week, you might maybe want to scream. For example, next year I'm living like a monk. You perhaps will see me in fewer places because I just feel there's still so much to learn. And so every single day of my life, in as much as I acknowledge how far God has brought me, I acknowledge how much exploits I've been able to do and how many things I've been able to amass. But look, the world already talks about it. People already give me my flowers. People commend me. But I'm saying, let me be my biggest critic.
Okay.
Because the craziest thing about success is that you have to keep at it. Someone says success is a lion. You have to keep on being a lion. You have to keep on showing up.
Yes.
You know, one of my favorite quotes is by Rory Vaden. He says, success is never owned, it is rented. And every single day, that rent is due. And so, my rent is due. My rent is always due. It's always due. My solutions for yesterday will not solve today's problems. And so I have to remain ever fresh. Because the world keeps praising you and you keep letting that get into your head. In no time, the ball's going to shift.
True.
And then another new kid on the block who kept on reinventing himself is going to obviously gain the limelight, get the news, and you will be pushed to the back seat because you failed to keep on moving. And so that's it for me. So while everyone keeps saying that, while everyone thinks I have it figured out, I keep telling myself, Alaye, you know yourself more than anyone else. And discipline is what you do when no one is watching. And so I think that's it for me. And so thank you for the kind words, but I'm the one who sees the obvious flaws and the places that still need improvement.
That's powerful. You've been very vulnerable. And this draws me to something that happened, I think, last week or two. A guy came out on a podcast and said, I don't know if you saw it, it was trending on Twitter, and said when his wife was pregnant,
Shalamantai.
He went through a lot.
I saw it.
He was going through so many things, and no one checked on him. And there was an outrage. A lot of people dragged him, ladies especially, and all of that. And men actually criticized him and says, why did you open up? That any guy will open up, the guy messed up and all of that. And I read a statistic that the life expectancy of men is actually dropping. I don't know. For me as a believer, I don't believe that, but I will live long. But it's actually true because men are having a lot modeled up at heart. Sometimes I look at my dad, I'm like, he thinks about so many things. I could have done it right. He thinks about, these kids, remember me? Because, kids are running to their mother, everything. And sometimes they never really have someone to talk to. So I want to ask, do you think men should open up? Do you think men should start speaking up?
All right.
Because of toxic masculinity is...
So I think there's a whole lot to say and quite a lot to unpack. Let me see how many minutes I have and what I can do in time. So first and foremost, I saw the opera online and I'm not a social commentator.
Yes.
And so it's not really in my style to chime in.
You're not a social commentator?
I'm a social commentator.
Okay.
I like to put it that way. In my definition, a social commentator is somebody who always publicizes their opinions on social issues, particularly as they happen.
Yes, okay.
Right? And so I think I need to define that, right? Yeah. So I have nothing against social commentators, don't get me wrong. It's not just my style, right? And also because I just try not to have itchy fingers, right? And also because I also just learn many times that time not only heals, like we say, but many times time actually validates, right? Sometimes some of the things that you wanted to say,
yes, but
you did not say deliberately because you were holding yourself. And so let's be clear. I saw some of the videos from the ladies talking about what happened, why the guy said what he said.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I understand them, but I also wish they understood the guy a little bit more. So the very first thing I saw from where I stood was I got what the guy was trying to say, but he didn't phrase his words properly.
Okay.
Now, you must understand that how truth is said, like I've heard Apostle Iren say, is just, okay, let me rephrase so you get this correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay? I want to make sure that you get this one.
Yeah.
You must understand that how truth is said is as important as what truth is said. Which means how you say something is as important as what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay? So many times you could be so right, but how you go about it sometimes could diminish your innocence and definitely make you look guilty.
Yeah.
And so I believe strongly that the real purpose of justice itself is empathy, right? Which, in the sense, you must understand where this guy was coming from.
Yes.
Let's just stop being so eager to jump on every trend and to castigate people for having different opinions from us.
Yes.
And so, number one, the guy could have said it better, but understood what he was saying. Now, I believe he should have worded it better for a reason. First and foremost, let's be clear and make no mistake. No man, I repeat, no man, no matter what you shoulder throughout the pregnancy period and the gestation of your child, should ever think that their pain comes any close
True.
to the pain of a woman.
True.
Do you know what it means to house a child in your belly? Do you know what it means for your hormones to be dancing all around?
True.
So do you know what it means to carry a child in your stomach? It affects pretty much everything.
Yes.
Somebody, life is growing on your inside.
Yes.
It affects how they walk, how they move, what they eat, their hormones, several things. And then don't get me started on the pain of labor. It's crazy. For those 9 months, and even after, it is crazy. One of my friends got delivered of a baby very recently. And she's been talking about how, for example, her stomach is even bigger than what it was when she was pregnant. These things are
traumatizing.
You could call it traumatizing, for many. Yeah. But beyond trauma, I think I think they don't talk about it enough. Being a woman is already, I don't know, it's a whole lot. You get my point?
Yes, I
understand. And so, on one hand, that's the fact. You can't compare the pains. Absolutely, you can't. You can't. I don't think you can. So, on the other hand, was the guy's pain valid? Absolutely. But what made it a bit funny was that through his words, it looked almost as though he was comparing pains.
True.
Right?
Yes.
Now, whenever I wife, nobody asked me. Nobody. It looked almost as though he was comparing experiences. Like my wife was going to, everybody asked her. Me, they did not ask me. Calm down. If person fall from 5-story building, hit ground, and you, when they go rescue the person, you clipped your foot and maybe your toe just opened up a bit. Of course, everyone will ask the person who fell
from the
story buildings down. And definitely not you.
Of course.
It doesn't mean that your pain is invalid. What it means is that by reason of that moment, obviously, by the magnitude of that incident, that person's pain gains ascendancy over yours.
Yes,
and so, I will not be saying stuff like, me, my own toe open when I go to tell that person. So that's how it sounded, even though I get the guy.
Yes.
And so here's the point. I understand the opera by some ladies. But on the other hand also, let's all be empathic, for God's sakes, and understand where the guy was coming from. Look, we all know what we are doing.
Yes.
We all know what we're doing. Look, on the other hand, the guy's words, even though they could have been framed better, meant something. And particularly in a world where we all say men are not expressive, men don't talk. When men finally do you have the emotional maturity to be able to listen to them and understand where they're coming from? And so on the other hand, I get what the guy is saying. Because sometimes you're doing a whole lot. Yes. You're juggling a whole lot in the midst of it. Even though your pain pales in comparison to hers, what you're doing is still quite burdensome legitimately. Right? But obviously, for the greater joy and because you know that your wife is going through more pain, you don't talk about it. Absolutely. But then I've seen some men actually bear a whole lot. A whole lot. But look, men don't talk about it as much. But it doesn't mean that those who talk about it are silly to do so.
Yes.
So I just feel like we could be nicer with our words. We could approach these things a whole lot more and all, right? And so for men who don't talk about what they go through, I understand also. Because I mean, my woman is going through way more. But on the other hand, when some people talk about it, let's not act like they're insane to do so. And this brings the whole toxic masculinity thing
Be a man.
out and be a man. There's some scientific research that has shown a whole lot that obviously there are some physiological differences between men and women and also emotional differences and many things and stuff that obviously affects how we behave. Let me be clear, physiological differences are very major, not some, right? But a few things to note, right? Even in their psychology, there are differences. So, for example, there's something called the prefrontal cortex, right? It's like the forefront of your brain. The prefrontal cortex is like the executive center of the brain. It's what's responsible for rational thinking and every single thing in the person's mind. There's, after that, something called the amygdala. It's the emotional center of the brain, responsible for processing emotions. Now, it's been proven psychologically that in women, there's a sharper interconnectedness, right? The connection between the amygdala and the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, is actually sharper, right? So women are likelier to even process their emotions faster. Hold on a bit. Process it, they're in touch with it, and then many times it's easier for them to even want to talk about it. However, for men, it's a little bit different. And so for men, naturally, the interconnection is not as fast. And so it also in many cases affects how we respond to situations. Okay? So for men, it's always fight or flight. And also it also affects how we show up in cases of maybe shame or pain. So for example, there are several hormones that are secreted, the body secretes every time. Hormones are like messengers that are sent into your bloodstream, right? There's what's it called? Oxytocin. There are several other things. There's estrogen, for example. There's oxytocin that is the connection hormone for the body. For women, those things are sharper, right? They secrete a whole lot more. It's sharper. For men, on the other hand, it's testosterone, which is actually more for rigidity, for this, for that. And so normally, right, by reason of our differences biologically, some people are more inclined, there are more proclivities to behave a particular type of way for men compared to women. For example, it's been proven that women are likelier to talk about what they're going through, particularly in moments of pain and shame, while for men, it's either fight or flight. Fight means they want to react a little bit aggressively towards it. Or on the other hand, they detach themselves. They detach themselves, which is why you're likely to see two versions of men. The ones that are always aggressive about everything. When things happen. But on the other hand, the ones that just don't want wahala. A little bit like me. However, getting married has stopped me. My wife wants to talk about everything. Me, I don't want wahala. And so sometimes she says, why don't you complain about something when you don't like it?
I'm like that too. I just keep quiet.
I'm okay. But sometimes, listen, keeping quiet will end up making things compound. It's emotional repression. And if care is not taking emotional repression, we will lead to what we call catharsis, which is emotional explosion. Because when things keep on piling up one day, you just shout. You just cry.
Just like a cook, you're shaking.
Thank you very much. That's how it happens. And so, for men, the balance is the truth. The truth lies in the balance. You have to find a way to work things around. And also, societal expectations don't help. Although sometimes they do. Can I explain? One of my favorite people, Salako Blessing, SLK, is my favorite comic. I love him so much. I think he's super cerebral. I don't like to use this word, but I think sometimes, I don't like to use the word underrated, but I think a lot of people haven't come in contact with his genius.
I can't call him underrated because
I stay with him. That's the word. Thank you. You see him. Good.
Back to back.
Amazing. So I don't like to call him underrated because I think he's rated very highly in not just my eyes, but quite a lot of people. But maybe underrated to some. People use that word many times. So. SLK made a statement that I think is so brilliant. He said stuff like, look, don't expect men to be women. And you get why. I hear people say stuff like men should cry. Men should also cry. Men should do this, men should do that. I get where you're coming from. What you instead should be saying is men should express themselves. So first and foremost, understand that men can never cry in a similar magnitude to women.
Never.
However, also understand that it is not wrong, totally, for society to see men as a symbol of fortitude and strength in the midst of adversity. If everybody sees problem and automatically begin to cry, who will look to for strength? So I've got stories for this.
Yes.
I'll give you one. 2 months to our wedding, my wife lost her dad.
Yes.
And it was a crazy day. I will never forget. August 2nd. I'm at the hospital. I was the only guy there.
Only guy
There in the family at the point of the announcement. All the other men had actually, they were all around. I mean, she's got an incredible family. All the men were there. They were supportive. Everybody was there. But at some point, they all went to the office or went to change or stuff like that. So at the time where the news really came and we had rushed back to the hospital, I was the only man there.
present. Yeah.
And then flanked by about 7 to 8 women, about 6 to 7 women there. And then they all began to cry. It was crazy. So I was holding one, holding the other, holding this person, holding that one. Quick question.
Did you cry?
Can you cry?
You have to hold yourself and be strong for them.
Thank you very much. You know why? Because let me tell you the truth. Many people think grief is better processed when everybody is crying at the same time. That's not how it works. Grief in many times or many cases is actually better processed when there's somebody you can look onto as a symbol of strength in that moment.
Yeah.
Somebody who will put his hand around your neck and tell you it will all be good. Everything will be fine. And so here's the point. I believe God is an intelligent designer, and by reason of his intelligence, he has programmed in our biology, physiology, and even socially, he has programmed men to have certain proclivities, certain idiosyncrasies, and in some way, the same vein, program women to behave naturally in some sense. However, like I said, the balance is key. But understand, there's a reason men are the way they are, and there's a reason women are the way they are, which is why in God's wisdom, it has been ordained that a child must grow in a family that has a father and a mother. Look, I'm a very beautiful exception, glory to God.
I was about to ask you that.
But look, my brother, I wish I had a father. Maybe there are some things I could have learned better. But look, I'm grateful to God that things happened the way they did. But I thank God because I turned out this way, not just because my mom raised me, but because it took a village to raise me. Which meant that from mentors in school, lecturers, teachers, people I used to talk to, I gleaned wisdom. From having an elder brother, someone I could look up to as a guy. To chest pain in the midst of some things sometimes. To not complain about everything. If everyone were complainers, I'm not saying women are complainers, but I'm saying that they have the tendency to be more vocal about their pain than men.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? And so on the other hand also, women can take a cue from us. That's why society will thrive when there's a balance between both genders. We're not at war. We have to complement one another.
Actually, but that's what it's looking like now. Like it's a war.
It's looking like a war, brother. But I don't want to digress. But to wrap things up on the toxic masculinity issue, right? We need to understand that in a world where... I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
How many minutes are in a year?
I'm not sure.
It's okay. I don't expect you to know. There are 525,600 minutes in a year. How many men commit suicide every year?
So don't tell me that amount.
I'll help you. 525,000 men commit suicide every year.
The same amount of minutes we have.
Every single minute, one man drops dead from suicide. And don't get me started on the number of suicide attempts. In comparison, less than about 250,000 women commit suicide per year. The general average. Which means that for every woman who kills herself, 2 men kill themselves. Wow. Now, part of that is also emotional repression, right?
Yes.
Trying to match up society standards and every single thing and all. And so it's crazy. Now, let me tell you the truth. Can I speak freely?
Yes, sir.
It's easy to tell men, open up. Open up. Tell us when you're going through stuff. One man opened up, even though he didn't open up in the right way, fully. But look at how much backlash he faced.
Yeah.
Now, the next time another man wants to talk about something similar, not everybody has Igbekale oro.
No, at all.
Not everybody knows how to put things
Express.
in a very beautiful way or wrap things around like an orator like me.
Yes.
But look, we need to learn to read in between the lines and understand where people are coming from. And let us treat every issue with grace. With what? With grace.
Yeah.
I still maintain that while I get where he was coming from, the pain pales in comparison. And so let's focus on the women, particularly on this pregnancy issue, because already many women feel marginalized. And that's the truth.
True.
But on the other hand, that he spoke does not mean you throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. And so the suicide rates are there. Everything is there. But let's be clear. You say men should talk. Listen to them. That's why many men don't speak up. But on the other hand, I think the balance is this. If you're a guy, I'm going to advise you. Find a tribe. Find a community. On one hand, let me tell you the truth. Men are not fully wired to talk about everything that is going wrong in their lives to everybody that cares to hear.
Yes. True.
That's why you notice in society, when you talk too much as a man, say, why you talk like a woman? That's the truth. And so already it's the same society, the same biology,
yes.
Many things already just put. So I just think the truth lies in the balance. Find the balance. So have a group of people you open up to. Have a group of men you open up to. And also, when in a family you're seen as the leader and the beacon of strength, you don't really want to project weakness so much.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you?
Yes.
Speak up to your wife, be friends with your wife, love your woman. But whether you like it or not, I think it's God ordained, particularly also in your biology as a man, to chest some things.
Yes.
Not be everything they complain about.
Yes.
Not be everything they what they, however, the balance now lies in knowing what to share and also what to show some fortitude on. I hope this helps.
Yes, sir. This was a masterclass. Wow. Thank you, sir.
What do I mean?
Yes, sir. So in between, you spoke about your marriage, but still talking on men.
Yep.
I don't want to okay.
I'm married, you're single. How does that feel? Show Rojo. When it's raining now, you go back single as guy. You stay with us, okay? Yeah, let's stay together.
Yeah. I've distanced myself from it.
That's the wrongest person to live with.
SLK, where could be?
SLK.
Because SLK is making me see that the possibility of being single actually is not bad.
I've known SLK for... I've known SLK actively for 14 years. I've never known him in a relationship. Or SLK did dig on me.
And you know, SLK makes us look at it's actually being single is not bad though. Because he has peace.
Deep down.
He get PS4, just they play, you come back, do jokes, we just discuss jokes.
I'm tired of SLK. I'm tired.
I'm worried. You know, so
when I see him, I'll lay hands on him.
He has
lay legs.
He has got to a point that he said up some ladies in his DM saying Alpha boss. You don't go like
oh my god.
Yeah. So but how one of my biggest worries actually is getting married. Why? Not getting married as per, but the preparation. So I had an episode with Damola. We happens to be my mentor.
Amazing. Yeah, Damola is an amazing.
I saw you guys together
guy.
at Tara's.
Yes, Damola is one of my favorite creatives.
Yeah. So I asked him. I said, how do you get married? And when we estimated everything was running to almost 20 million.
For what?
For like a middle class wedding.
Middle class wedding. Middle class wedding, 20 million.
So the price has gone up.
Middle class wedding.
This is where my worry is.
20 million.
This is where my worry is. But actually,
is it for beans or do? How many day wedding?
Actually, that was for like traditional. When we actually
I'm not. It's not on brand for me to spill numbers.
Yes,
I would have spilled something.
He was spilling numbers.
If I tell you,
because of course the MC. So you asked me, you remember how much Monarch is? I said yes.
Salah.
So this is one of my worries that okay, I want to have because I went to weddings that was growing up. I love that. So I also want to, and I don't want to borrow to the wedding. Do you understand? I want to actually. So as a man, this is one of my own worries too, because you want to meet up. You want to. That's also one of our struggles as men. We want to meet up. So how do I prepare? And ladies too are not settling for less. So the pressure is getting worse.
I'm laughing.
Because it's valid, sir. It's valid. And it's not something that you say I want to say for marriage wedding. The way ladies now break our hearts, men do the same too. So this is my word. So I help me. This is a consulting session with TBIU.
So Tolu, first and foremost, that I'm here means I love you so much. But secondly, that I'm willing to talk about this particular issue also further buttresses that truth.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about the spending part. 20 million? Tolu.
Sir.
First and foremost, there's a reason.
Yes.
The event industry in Nigeria is $1 billion one. When you call a middle class wedding, it means you're talking. Okay, let's do it this way. Wait, am I upper class?
Yes, now.
You
see, guys.
Okay, I'm upper class.
Pastor Olushola had his wedding at Cathedral Marina. Remember, I said I grew up Anglican. That is, it doesn't matter, sir.
That's where she was. Christian. That's where she.
Yakubu Gowon. That was where he had his wedding.
I know people.
Queen Elizabeth was president. Was there.
This? My wife got.
Cathedral Marina is elite.
I've had you.
The pipe organ. Oh my god.
Only Racing. So I got married at the Cathedral Church of Christ.
Marina.
Because my wife was raised Anglican.
Wow.
Her dad was actually one of the very prominent workers in church. He was so active. Wow. Dr. Makinwa's daughter was getting married. She had to get married there. Wow. It wasn't even a debate. My wife left to her, she might have said, okay, apostle, because that's our pastor.
Of course, yeah,
but
I understand.
We couldn't even argue because I think it was very beautiful because that's where our parents got married.
Yes, and that was
our parents got married.
That was when I saw that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was good. So I'm upper class.
Yes, now.
I can't even tell you my own wedding breakdown because
so
I can't tell you. So forget about that one. So I don't know. Okay, maybe I had an upper class. I don't know. I don't like to put myself in classes. But let me put it this way. Anything from VI upwards. If you get married VI upwards, I think that's upper class. So maybe I agree with you with respect to my wedding. I don't like social class disparities. But if you're getting married now and you want to call it middle class, you're talking about maybe getting married from Surulere to this side.
Yeah, Jawo Festa.
Of which there are halls in Ikeja. Let me not mention name. Go to Billings Way.
So I know this.
Now the Billings Way be that. Whoa. They go tear you. You show the white stone.
The white stone.
Oh, they'll tear. I got married in a very killing one, and I knew how much I paid. Now let me shock you. The event planner, shout out to her, Hill's concept. Let's give her free ad on your podcast. Can you imagine?
Yeah. So shout out.
I love her that much. But when Hilda was coming with the budget and all, we paid for the hall, and it was quite an amount of money.
Yeah.
And the next thing she comes with the decoration amount. My brother.
That's what Damola told me. Say decoration
was like times 2
of the hall.
Or more of the hall.
I don't know.
Of both halls put together. Trad and me and I do trad separate weddings. Why do you think people are doing everything on one day? They do.
As you finish the tradition, you just cross over 10, to the.
Then we said, you get why people are trying to. Now let me tell you. Look, this is not the time. I'm sure Damola must have done justice to that topic.
Yeah, he did.
So I'm giving you breakdowns. You do MC, you do food, you know how much food is now?
Yeah.
In fact, right now people don't go to, even me now, my expectations are high. I mean, that doesn't go to so many events. But right, my expectations are, when I go to your event, I don't expect only food. I come from me small chops. No, go to McDonald's. After that, what that they're doing now is that they're putting hands on rainy. Ice cream in events. So the last two, they're called high society. Yeah. High society events have been for. I saw ice cream. My wife knows that when I want to indulge, I go for ice cream. And then so when I went, I kept on going. I went like twice, if I'm not mistaken. No, I first of all went because for me and her. Then later I said, how far ice cream here, Obado? If only they can give me one more and all. And also when I joking said that when I'm doing my own event, also I have to put the ice cream stand. There's ice cream, there's the slush one, there's food for after party, there's food for this. Don't go there. The average high society wedding now, anything less than, if you're doing 2 days, anything less than 100 million is not high society. It's not. That's for children. That's for children. That's for kids. That's kids. I'm not joking. The average middle class wedding in Lagos now
so I was really
starts from 35M to I think about 80 to 100 million.
And their weddings from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Their weddings every day.
Show wine. Day wine.
I mean, as an MC, I know because I always get bookings back to back.
A big boy now.
Sir.
A big boy. See, the amount you go pay content creator alone, the amount you go pay videographer, photographer.
Those people that used to come and do smoke, like as you vanish after your dance.
This is not even the time for. But let's tell you, but if you are doing a wedding in Lagos now, and you do for the 2 days strada and this thing, and your wedding end less than 100 million, it's middle class, and that's just how it is. That's how life is. That's the truth now.
So, Pastor, sorry, I said I won't call you Pastor. I said, Olushola, what will I now do? Talk to me like as a big brother.
Let me tell you the balance.
How do I
Can I teach you this one?
How do I
honestly
prepare?
You already know, but let me tell you.
I don't know.
Look, my brother, first thing first is this. Stop trying to measure up to society's expectations of you. If your marriage...
Is my mother and my parents society?
If your marriage... There's a balance.
Okay.
If your marriage is the greatest financial project you've ever embarked upon, at the time of the marriage, then something is already fishy.
Oh,
because
Pastor, don't motivate me.
Money for investment is now money you're using to entertain people that
don't
might never
you.
check up on you
I don't care
for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But then again, on the other hand, there's a balance. You see, can I speak freely?
Yes, sir.
95% of African parents use I'll take it again. I'll take this again so you get it properly. 95% of African parents use their children's weddings to also massage their egos.
Yes. Like my mom.
And you
I'm under serious pressure, Pastor, sir.
Are you?
My mom she's big on events. If you go to Ovation Magazine, you'll be seeing her. She's always at all these parties. All her friends call her. My mom puts me on a pedal of
done for their friends' children, and you now want them to be.
As one of government officials, so they are. So now I'm under so much pressure.
Can you see that?
First of all, I cannot bring any woman to the house. And thirdly, it must be big.
So the balance is this: if your parents want it, they should fund it.
That one day, that's an idea.
If they want it, they should fund it.
That's an idea.
Don't let anyone put pressure on you. So there's a balance to it. On one hand, right? I get the parent.
Yes.
Because you need to understand that for you as a young chap,
Yes, sir.
there's a lot in your life to look up to, to look forward to. You're gonna have children, you're gonna have for them, is their children's weddings, and after that, the birth of their grandchildren. And those are the only listen. When you get to the age of 50, 60,
Yes.
you understand that for most of them, they are the twilight of their careers.
Yes, sir.
There isn't so much vigor, gusto, enthusiasm to hit so many more milestones in their careers. Now they are now a lot more family-centered and now many times also God-centered. And the family-oriented part of them wants to have more ceremonies. And then they see you as a medium through which that each is satisfied.
Yes, an expression.
And so understand them first. But on the other hand, make sure that in understanding them, you don't become a tool for their social experiment. Imagine any parents walk by. So here's how you're going to balance it. I want to understand that they're not stupid to also want a good stuff.
Yes.
For example, even some of us, look at me. I had a vow already, or like a promise or a hope. I've been saying it for long. Go and check all my socials. That I'm not going to get married if Chief Commander Ebenezer
is not there,
or Beola Shukbo Fabi is not there, because he's my favorite artist. Let me tell you something. When we chose wedding date, the first person I called was Imam my God. I said, brotherly, Baba must come. And then that was how I did it. I went, okay, how much will it take? He's a legend.
Yeah, of course.
I was willing to
do
you
love him so much.
Impossible to have him there, and he came. When people found out that Chief Ebenezer came and said, they know how much it would take to get someone like that and the energy extra that it would be required. But because it was a personal desire of mine, I made it happen. There's nothing wrong in having a desire for a beautiful or a big wedding. There's nothing wrong.
Pastor, you're deep.
God. The only question is, are you able to fund it?
Yes.
Because many people fund big ceremonies, get home and there's no curtain in their houses.
They borrow for it.
If you borrow, see, I say this unequivocally. If you borrow for your wedding to entertain strangers, something is wrong with you. Some people feel we have no choice but to borrow. But quick question, what makes a marriage marriage? I think many times we lose the essence of what makes marriage. Marriage is the union between husband and wife. They coming together. Coming together is usually done by a priest.
Yes.
Blessing the union, and it is the ring that is the most important thing in front of men and God. You can do it in your house or do it in front of God and in front of church.
Yes.
I've seen people do it. I've seen some people say, look, we can't afford it, we can't afford it, and that's okay. That's the most important
They
thing.
move on.
Let's not minor on the major and major on the minor. And so you must understand, the ceremony is good, don't get me wrong, but it should not be more important than the wedding itself.
Yes.
And so only do it if you can fund it. That's the truth. And that I also tell you is this. I think if you spend more than 20% of your net worth as your contribution for your wedding, I should ask you questions. Okay, let me help you. Why Nigeria? 30%. Be wise. Because see, 90% of the people that came for my wedding, I've not seen them since then. It's been a year now. I've not seen them since then. Wow. So that desire to want to, you must picture that what is happening. Me, my own desire was to have fun with my friends. People came from out of the country to have fun with me. I was happy. My wedding was tons. It was good. In fact, I don't listen to secular songs, for example. But at my wedding, right, I knew many of my guests vibe to this thing.
Yes.
I just go told the DJ, how many years do you have? He said 1. He said 2. I said, okay, I think he had 1 in the end. I love the guy right away. I said, don't play this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, all through my wedding reception. If you do, you won't get paid again. Or I won't call you. He said, yes, sir. I said, clear these guys. Any other song, play it. Give me secular songs. There are many clean ones. I mean, they are for fun.
Yes.
Secular songs, though, do not, there's something in secular does not mean it's evil. I'm a man of God. 99.9% of the songs I listen to are gospel. And they are tongues and prayers. But it doesn't mean I can't vibe to good secular songs. Yeah, so we had fun. That was the purpose of the ceremony. But I did not break a bank to make it happen. Let me tell you something. Before you spend money on wedding,
yes, sir,
go and invest in your house first. May you not go and impress people, come home and your wife is fanning herself. After you spend 40 million naira, you cannot buy AC for the house.
Shame.
You spend 40 million. If you spend 1M, no problem. I can say, why do you not buy AC? No problem. Use fan. But you spend 40M and you cannot afford AC.
Shame. That's a big
You get my point? Yes. And so that's the point. So there's a balance. I think it also lies in your values. In your values. Because the moment you begin to build a reputation in your relationship for impressing others, it's going to be like this. That when a snake comes into a house, you cannot tell it how far it will go. Because that habit will breed. It will keep on breeding. Going. Keep on breeding. Keep cultivating itself in your mind. And one day, you guys will buy a car of 200 million and not be able to pay the house rent the next day. And that's how it works. So yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So can anybody pressure you?
Mommy.
Mommy, John Torolo, mommy, me, advice here, mommy. But mommy, if you want it.
All these years.
If mommy wants it,
she wants it. No, I'll just double my also and align my desires with her.
But in the same vein, understand that your parents' desires are also legitimate.
Yes.
But it's just that you are just starting your own life.
Yes. Yeah, I factor that in. All right, Pastor, I'm trying to wrap everything up in the next 15 to 20 minutes. And you're first class graduate of sociology. So let's talk about society. Let's talk about politics. Because I remember saying before, I remember on your bio, before you removed it, you had the politics. Was it
Politics aficionado.
What's that?
Means someone who loves politics.
Okay. Yes, but before we enter politics, I want to touch AI. There was a stat that came out recently. Sam Altman said a lot of people are becoming very vulnerable to AI, to artificial intelligence, that they're giving artificial intelligence information that nobody else has ever heard before. Do you think that is going to affect religion? Because now, some people are no longer vulnerable with the Holy Spirit. They don't turn ChatGPT to their Holy Spirit. So is it a threat to our faith as Christians?
First and foremost, I don't know what you call threats to faith, because threat to faith will mean threat to God. And no one is ever a threat to God. Sometimes, I get what you mean, but maybe I'll call it a threat to the effectiveness of the word of God in your life.
Yes.
Maybe a bit of that. So first and foremost, not just to faith conversations, but also to human interactions, right? Yeah. I try not to talk too much about the whole AI thing because there are still some things that I'm still
I'll be an investor.
trying to burn years of research into.
Yeah.
But from where I stand, there are quite a lot of cons to it. Let me not talk about deepfake, for example.
Yeah.
But I think one of the major issues that we're going to have with AI is critical thinking.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's gradually becoming eroded
It's terrible.
in some circles.
Yes.
For example, now people don't even think again. They ask ChatGPT.
Everything.
Many people can't remember the last time they really stayed on something, brainstormed, and got good stuff out of it. And so if you don't put measures in place in your own life, you could soon become a Dundee. Somebody who's thinking faculty is thinking because it hasn't been used.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Look, I believe the real goal of AI is IA. The real goal of artificial intelligence is supposed to be intelligence amplification.
Yes.
Which means it's supposed to work for the humans to help humans become more intelligent and not take their intelligence away. I mean, that should be the real goal. But it feels as though that's not it at the moment. And so it does a lot of good things, don't get me wrong. Shortens research time and many things. But we're not talking about how it would take a lot of jobs. I don't think many people are talking about it. Maybe I've not deeped it a lot. One of my business managers posted on a story just day before yesterday some new pictures. They looked like photo shoot pictures. I would have thought they were photo shoots, if not because I had seen the whole Gemini thing going around. Gradually,
it's getting that
whether
good.
we want to admit it or not, yes. They just copy a particular prompt, and if you're a photographer and you don't think your job is a bit under threat, it's either you have reached a given level of, do I call it oracular ability, and you are top in the industry
that you must be called.
Or you are planning to, or you found good ways to adapt yourself, or you rely on the strength of events. But you see, for so many people already, particularly middle class, working class people, many of them begin to think that, why should I spend... My team, for example, insisted that I got a headshot.
A new headshot?
A new headshot, new series of headshots. And they paid a photographer, paid him 7 figures.
Yeah?
Yes, no. They play. My team, they call the shots. I answer them. They order me around, bro.
Mr. Dami.
That's one of the secrets of my success.
Mr.
They order
Dami
me around. Dami. He's even the chief orderer. Although there's one or two other girls that their mouths are sharper than Dami's mouth. So they order me around. I'm just like I'm serious. If you see me around, you think they're my boss.
Is he a top photographer?
Yes, he is.
Wow.
Great guy. Paid him in 7 figures. And he wasn't even the most expensive one. There was one other one that was more expensive, and I paid him in that much. Now, so imagine someone sees the picture and says, oh my God, this is so nice. And it was really nice. And says, okay, I can't afford this guy. But guess what? Can I shock you? AI prompt might not get every single facial expression that I wanted to project. But my brother, I will not lie to you. AI be moving weird these days.
Yes,
I see people put their picture with a particular prompt, and I would not have guessed.
Yes, true.
And so, quick question: would you rather go and pay 150,000 or 300,000 to a middle-class photographer or early-stage photographer to take a picture of yours, or you go and use Gemini for €0? Particularly for most who can't afford it.
Yes.
And guess what? Can I shock you?
Yes, sir.
We're still in the early stages of AI. Let's not talk about deepfake, for example. And imagine what will send the world into confusion. Maybe one of the de facto leaders of maybe the EU or the UN or whatever it is comes out in a deepfake video released to say something terrible about somebody. People are now creating full music with AI. I was in early stages. There's one where you tell AI to use comment session to create sounds. I saw one video, my jaw dropped. There's some videos I have to look twice before I know if it's true or not. Imagine what that does to African mothers already. WhatsApp. They share everything.
My dad shared me one video of a building collapsing.
Can you see? You see how the AI in the next 10 years,
really.
How good will it be? So I think except there are measures in place, what was supposed to help improve humans might be the end of some. Might be the end of the thinking of some. Might be the end of quite a number of things. And also, AI is really replacing jobs. Let's not lie. For example, I do a lot of research. If I'm doing the volume of work that I'm doing now If I was doing it 3 years ago, I would need like maybe 3 more assistants and 10 them researchers.
Wow.
Because I do a lot of research. On my way here, I've read like 3-4 things already in the car.
Articles.
Just random research.
God.
I did a lot of research, right? This morning, I've studied quite a number of things already, just on my way. I might not read through every word, but that's how you stay grounded.
Yes.
Just random. I have questions in my mind every time. I don't just let this stay there. So I just go my notepad and then I go to, Chloe phone me. ChatGPT helped me. So there's a balance to it, right? So on one hand, it's taking jobs. But on the other hand, as an individual, you have to balance it out. So for example, I have rules. My team will tell you, I'm not capping here. They'll tell you. It wasn't up until about a year ago that I finally allowed any of my team members work on maybe a script for a video or for a content with the aid of AI. You can think.
Yes.
I didn't get here by depending.
I used to do that too.
Overly depend. I said, see, there's so many now who are building. I'm not trying to take jabs at anybody, but some people are building thought leadership on the wrong things. Just ask AI, I want to sound like so and so person, and you carry script and you recite it in front of camera, no point, no wahala, until they invite you to come and speak at the conference. And then nothing is really entering.
How about
again.
like for some people pastors now, first teachers that will come up and start using ChatGPT to be...
Those things are normal. They'll do it. And so that's why you need discernment to be able to tell fake from original. And so my question is, I'm not against people using it. I'm just saying, don't be dependent on it. Don't be overly dependent on it. So for example, think about it. We're having a conversation. We're going to go for the next hours without anybody having to check something. Right? If I only used to rely on...
You not say, oh, I'm Google it.
There's a problem.
Yes, sir. Very correct.
So there's a balance to it. And then to the faith conversation, to pastors, I think in the end, it's God that really sees.
Yes.
Some don't read their Bibles anymore. For every single sermon, they chat GPT. If I don't get crazier in coming time, because guess what? AI is getting so crazy that in the next 3 years, some might not even want to go through the stress of morning devotion, preaching to their members. AI will pick their voices, get their mannerisms, and do the exact same way that they would have done.
I released an episode of Ebuka Mike recently, and AI took it and translated everything to Spanish, and it was just...
So, and that thing also, translators, their jobs are also...
Oh my God. Pastor Olushola, one more question before I give you your flowers.
My flowers!
Sociologist, political aficionado.
Aficionado.
Political aficionado. Okay. Is there hope for Nigeria?
There is. As long as I'm still here. And as long as I hope you are still here.
I'm still here.
There's a lot of hope for Nigeria.
Would we see real and physical changes in our lifetime?
Yes, because people like me will take action.
People like me
not because we will see it. The will, what changes it from can to we will is actually the actions of others. I was reading a book by Olumide Soyombo. It's called Vantage. And then he starts the introduction with a very interesting story of a man who was actually one of the leaders in a remote village. And he told him, he said, that don't worry, very soon roads will lead to this city and it will be opened up to the entire world, because there was no road leading to the village rather. Wow. He said, roads will lead to the village. He kept on telling, he kept on believing, believing it. Until one day he came back, this time not to motivate them, but he gave them tools. And he says, let's walk and build the roads. And so what that means is that Nigeria has had so many ego better, yes, to work out.
Yes.
I don't think you really know how bad things are until you go out of the country and do a juxtapose.
Yes.
And see how we might be giants of Africa, but yet we are bottom barrel in terms of reputation. You know, Faladro Toye put it this way, and I think it's so profound. I can't remember the exact words he uses, but he talked about how the fact that the least in a great country will always be greater than the greatest from a terrible country. Brotherly,
Yes, sir.
I dey walk through immigration for Singapore. They say everybody go, 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 go. As soon as they see green passports. In Nigeria, I'm in my own right,
Yes.
a public figure.
Yes.
I'm in my own right to the glory of God, somebody that has seen a measure of success in this country.
Yes, sir.
In Singapore, nobody sent my papa.
They held you back.
I'm just, before getting here, I was just coming from a visa office or something. I go visa, renew this one, do that. By the grace of God, whenever I step into these places, I'm giving preferential treatment sometimes.
Yes.
Someone say, sir, come to VIP, me low VIP, I give me less. Some say this, they respect you because they know you inspire them.
Yes.
Over there, now remember, it's no longer great man in a small country.
Yeah.
It is great man in a small country being treated a certain type of way by somebody who might be a small man from a great country. Let's keep deceiving ourselves and let's keep acting like everything is okay. And so here's my point, and what I'm trying to say is that how long do we keep trying to get new passports? How long do we all just keep trying to give birth to our children abroad? Which is not bad. I don't fault people who do that. But how long do we keep on doing these things instead of trying to build? Because one day these guys will shut their doors.
Yes.
Brazil, they give visa to Nigerians anymore. You have to have the longest legs. Brazil, their passport is stronger. 10 times stronger than our passport.
Wow.
Dominican Republic, on all of those countries,
The islands.
Barbados, the value of their passports are now shrunk, which means that citizenship by investment is no longer having a real route to go through those guys as much. Wow. Think about it. And so we need to address these things, which means that until we start building this country, things will happen. So for me, you already know that I have political inclinations. I won't tell you when the Lord says go. For example, it depends on God. I won't tell you when.
Yeah.
But we need to start building. I think many times, even as believers, because you're Christian and you've talked about this, I think we do a lot of talking. That's why we're consumers and we're not really producers.
Yes.
We complain a lot about the country. Many times we pray and we stop at praying, forgetting that real transformation will not come by the verbosity of your prayers, but by the efforts that you make and the things you do. Step out, infiltrate these spaces even more. Because let me be honest with you, I don't think it takes a politician to transform Nigeria. I don't even think it takes a genius to transform Nigeria. It just takes somebody who is excellent in the simple things. And somebody who has a good heart and a good conscience. But if every good-hearted person is running away and shying away because they want to get stained, things won't happen. And that's just really what it is.
If you're president for a day or a week, what will you do?
And that's my time.
No.
Mark Obama.
Okay.
If I'm president for a day or a week, I don't want to dabble into that right now.
You can just say education, healthcare.
Let me put it this way.
Because that's what everyone is saying.
No. First thing I think I'll do is I will heighten the punishment for corruption.
For bad behavior.
Yes.
Ali Baba said that recently.
Oh, really?
He said, yeah.
I will heighten the punishment for bad behavior.
People that will see it
and I'll make there more stringent measures to combat corruption. The moment people know that they will be held accountable when they misbehave, the more good behavior you will get. That's the very first thing I will do. Let me tell you something. That will create a ripple effect.
Yes.
It will. It will. It means the person will misappropriate. There's money in this country.
Sir.
There's enough money in this country to make sure that every single citizen of Nigeria, nobody goes hungry.
Yes, he's doing well.
One of my friends relocated to the UAE for work. His jaw almost dropped. He said they'll deliver packages to him at his door. He said the packages can be there. He will travel, come back, and nobody will touch it.
I agree. It's true.
And he said the country pays citizens to even marry. Well, you know where they.
What's the country, sir?
They do.
What's the country, sir?
Yeah, it's UAE.
Yes.
They pay citizens when they're getting married. They say, bro, they play.
Pay me to get married. See my big worry.
Can you see? See my brother. It is well. But thank you. That's about that.
All right, this is the time where I give you flowers. I want to say a big thank you for being an exemplary leader. Thank you for coming on my couch to do this. It's a very big win for me, and I'm very happy that you came. Even with your wife, you guys don't know, she actually drove in. Yeah. Before she stepped out. And I'll take Mr. Dami too. And all. Thank you, sir, for staying true. I was just, like I said, when I was doing my research and reading everything, I just looked and said, wow, a lot can happen in 10 years. That's actually what I want to tie to this episode. A lot can happen in 10 years because you graduated 2015, this is 2025, and everything you said in your book, in your log, except one thing that you said you want to be a BBC soccer analyst.
Sir, I went to see you to speak sometime recently.
Yeah.
And then one of the council people or one of the committee people came to me and showed me my yearbook from 2015. Yeah. And there he said, what do I want to become? I said, HR manager of Shell. That as enough of that, but I'm going to, by the grace of God, very soon, I'll be giving some IOCs human resource trainings or something.
Wow.
By the grace of God, that should happen.
Levels.
So, by the grace of God. Yeah. But, so that's even one better, by God's grace. But there's that. I said I wanted to become a motivational speaker. That's the only way I could describe what I'm doing now.
Yes.
And then I said I want to become a BBC soccer analyst, my brother.
BBC soccer analyst.
I love football so much.
Yeah, no.
Honestly speaking, can I be honest with you?
Yes, sir.
In an alternate universe, if I wasn't like doing what I'm doing, I don't want to dilute my reputation. I'll just be doing a podcast to analyze football. Wow. I don't brag. I don't brag about most things and stuff. But you see football knowledge. Bro, first book I wrote in my life.
The book that you
was
referenced.
Current Affairs. But before that, I wrote a soccer book. I used to write soccer books.
Analysis.
Like, bro. That's why I was one of the best FIFA players, if not the best in my setting CU. Up to now. I love football. I love football. That's the only thing I do to breathe. Not to breathe, to wind, to cool off, to unwind. That's what I do. And so I really would love to do that, but I can't.
But now it's off. But in 10 years, you're able to achieve it, and it's a great example for me. It's good that I have someone like you that I look up to, and I see that if you can do it in the next 10 years for me too, I can also achieve it, and it's really heartwarming. Thank you so much also for sticking to the call. Whenever I come to CCI, I go and I listen to your sermons. In between the mix, you try to carry everyone along. You try to be present for everyone. You don't see yourself as like a celebrity or a super public figure. You call everybody's name. Where's Uruka? Where is KG? Where is Embassy? This and that. You I don't know how to put it. Like Philippians says, he did not see himself, he did not look at himself so highly. Instead, he came and just you come to our level, and you also came here for me.
I am at your level.
You're not at level. You did your wedding at Marina.
What's your...
Thank you, sir.
I never ever beaten you on your show before.
No.
I am. We're all... I don't know, like, to use that. Come down to a level. What level? Like, okay, I'm just privileged to maybe express some things that are admirable to others. But I'm just... Like, bro.
You said you love football.
Yes, I do.
And so I got a gift for you.
Really?
Yes, I did. It's
Gege.
It's a United jersey, but not the. I didn't get this one. The one where you're.
No way.
Your guys are.
That means retro.
Are losing.
Oh my God, it's retro.
I got you the one where
Vintage.
United was
I
United.
love it.
Pisha, I wrote 24.
Oh,
yeah, 24 is
thank you so much.
Your number.
Normally, I don't like calling myself Pishos or Pastor Shola, but because of you, I will wear this one.
Thank you, sir.
Pishos, I will wear it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is beautiful.
Yeah, this is when Roy Keane.
Yes, I know.
Beckham, when we were exactly. So that's
when you went in the womb.
I was in the womb now, but that's when we United. So don't be wearing.
This is so thoughtful. Yeah. Thank you so much. That means Excel. It's Excel. Yeah. You Excel. I get jokes.
Pastor.
I'm not the mentor SLK. Ask him.
I knew now.
I'm going to teach SLK the basics of comedy. Ask him now.
So what you do? They do?
SLK is my boy. Ali Baba's is my dad.
I know they do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pastor Shola. Thank you so much, Mr. Dabi. Thank you so much to all my crew. Thank you so much to DG. And we had Pastor Olushola Olaleye, and he gave us an amazing episode. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tolu Afilaka, and that's my time. Peace.